Models and approaches in communication for development. There are three types of communication models. The first one is unilinear, and then transactional. The last one is systems models. One of the unilinear communication models is the Laswell's communication model. This communication model starts with who and ends with a certain effect on the person to whom something is said using a particular channel. The next one is Aristotle's communication model. This model assumes that a speaker constructs a speech for different audiences on different occasions for different effects. Let's also have an overview of Berlow's communication model in 1960. For me, this is probably the most familiar and common communication model. As you can see, this model is comprised of a source, a message, a channel, and then the receiver. The receiver eventually gives feedback, and then the cycle goes on. Anyway, feedback should be spelled out as FEEDBACK, not 2 Ks. That was just a typographical error. Okay, the last unilinear model that we will be discussing is the Shannon and Weaver's communication model. This one is a mathematical model which describes the process of communication using a telegraph system. So this one is a bit technical, and it also introduces the concept of noise, which is anything that lessens the fidelity or the quality of communication. Okay, let's just review. The unilinear models are Laswell's, Aristotle's, Berlow's, and Shannon and Weaver's communication models. Let's move on to the transactional models, such as the Osgood's communication model and Kincaid's convergence model of communication in 1979. These two communication models depict a give and take of messages in the communication process, wherein the receivers are not just passive receptacles or receivers of messages, but they also communicate back. So this is a two-way communication. That is why it is called transactional communication models. However, there is a unique element in the Kincaid's convergence model of communication, which is eventually having a mutual understanding. So these are the transactional models of communication. Let's move on to the systems model. Finally, this is the last communication model that we will be discussing, which is the Kuinos star model of communication. The elements of this communication model are interacting, interdependent, and interrelated to form a whole communication situation with one goal. This goal could be to have a mutual understanding or obtain behavioral change. In result, change affects other individuals and the communication situation as a whole. These communication models are important in our development communication works, as they could be the basis of how we plan and implement our communication plan for development. Understanding the three types of communication models, such as unilinear, transactional, and systems models, will help us get a better perspective in development communication. Okay, how? Well, we will realize that development communication does not simply employ a one-way communication, wherein once we relayed our development message, it is done. Nor once we had a two-way communication wherein we provided developmental message and they understood and learned of it, the process ends. It's not like that. So in the system's view, the development communication process is continuous and communication takes place simultaneously between and among the elements within the communication situation. Moreover, there is a realistic assumption that communication may be initiated by any of the elements within the process. For instance, any individual within a community may initiate the communication process for development work. Aside from that, any change in an individual in any aspect, whether mindset, attitude, or practices among others, can bring about changes in the whole communication program. So basically, that is the relevance of knowing with understanding what communication models are in the development communication efforts that we do.